Guys, welcome to the RMR podcast, episode 10. I'm Mitch
Whoop.
Pfeiffer.
10 with J Ping. What's good, everybody?
10. I almost got to double check if we are on 10 or 11 right now. Podcast episodes are hard to keep up with for myself, man, but it is
Yeah,
10.
we're on 10 up. We're on 10 together, and then I think we're on 3 with me and Isaiah. For four is next.
Yeah, the podcast, they start to add up, man. When we were doing the lunch table, we got to like 70 or something like that. I don't know, 80? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I lost track after
They're fun. These
3.
these doing these shows and talking about shit and getting super high, super fun. I get a lot of good feedback from people, they really like the 710 Labs episode. Big shout out to Brad.
And you weren't on that episode, so that was our
I
best
know.
episode.
I know. I don't doubt it. It's me that ruins it. I just
Yeah.
get smoked out and my energy just sucks. So
No, don't. My energy is artificial on the podcast because if people knew me in real life, I have no energy.
you do suck. No, I'm just kidding. We just are terrible.
So with that said, getting high, man. What are you smoking on right now? What's
Oh man, today is all dedicated to originals, man. I got the SFVOG. We got the King Louis. The London Pound Cake is one of the new ones right here. They recently started doing their smalls. $25 eighths in LA. It's arguably the best $25 eighth in all of LA. So
wow, 25 out the door. That's no industry discount.
nah, it might be 25 plus tax. That's
Okay.
standard though. That's standard though.
But regardless, a $25 eighth is some kills, popcorn, small buds, whatever. In LA?
In LA.
That is.
And these guys just won multiple cups. I think they did Farmers Cup, San Diego, Cannabis Cups, all this kinds. They really just ran all over the competition all over here this last year. I don't know what that means in terms of high time, but at least here in Cali, that usually typically stands for something.
Yeah. And I love I told you that the other day when we were FaceTiming. I really love their packaging, man. Even though it's like all black, you can't see the product, which is
no, this is that blue box.
Okay, blue, yeah.
Right.
I just love it. The font, the word font, the Mylar is clean. Yeah, it's clean. See, and in Washington, they don't like that. In Washington, everyone complains. You got to see the bud. You got to.
No, not if it's good enough.
That's what I'm saying. If you have the right brand name, you don't need that. I know there's a little bit of cultural difference between Washington and California, but if you know it's some kill, you don't need to look at the bud.
100%.
And especially in your average dispensary in Washington compared to your average dispensary in LA, they're a lot, or California. LA, it's a lot busier, so you don't get to sit there and fill out 35 different packs and figure out which is the best one to take home.
Not anymore, for sure. I mean, some of the other shops, and sometimes it's still definitely slow enough that you can, but for the most part, the COVID stuff really changed the whole touchy, smelly, feely stuff, and then a lot of people just really trying to get in and out, I feel like.
Yeah, and I'm smoking on some dabs from the homie Knots.
Okay.
I am not. You know me. I have never been a dabber. I've dabbled. I've dabbled in the dabs over the years, but I've never been a consistent dabber in my life. Jared hooked me up with a rig, my first rig. I'm a grown man now. I got a rig.
Okay. Congratulations. You finally, your rig is dropped.
Like 10 years after I first started dabbing, I finally got a rig. And so I've been up in that. I mean, it's nice. I mean, obviously, you know me. I'm a parent. I got the kid. I don't like reeking like, I love blunts, but it's just not. I don't like reeking like blunts. It's all over my fingers. My son's got an afro, so then it gets in his hair. It's just, I'm not smoking near him, but just me having blunt residue all over me. It just leaks off on him. He hates getting his hair washed and stuff, and I'm not sending him to daycare smelling like an ashtray. So the dab rig is super efficient to just no stink, and
you're off the oil.
Does his job quickly. I can have the wife watch him for a second, go sneak off, do my thing, and I'm good. I used to get the good terpene. If you got good dabs, you're getting good terpenes and stuff. So, I know I'm late to the game. I'm preaching stuff where people like, yeah, we've been dabbing for that for the last decade. But I'm on the wagon finally. But things are moving. So that's why I was smoking on some dabs. And in music this week, we have been updating our playlist. I know we talked about this a little bit last episode, but we have our playlist out. I'm gonna spit them out. You correct me if I miss one, but we got Washington Fire, California Fire, Low Key Fire, CBD and Chill, or that's not out yet? That's not public yet?
Yeah.
So I already fucked it up.
I mean,
And
it's got stuff in it, but we're not, I'm
that's not
trying
what.
to
All right,
really build it up to 40, 50 songs.
all right. Washington Fire, California Fire, Low Key Fire, and High Key Bars. We got a little theme going there for you.
New Music Monday.
And New Music Monday. So those are getting updated pretty frequently. The High Key Bars, we just slid that new J. Cole record on there that dropped off the upcoming off season, which comes out, I think, in 2 days. I think I think Thursday or Friday. He dropped the documentary, super dope, and he just announced that he signed to a pro basketball team in Rwanda, I believe.
Yeah, something like that. He's killing it. He's like the first basketball player to do man, or the first rapper artist to do a bunch of shit at this point, man.
Rapper
Like,
at age 35 getting into professional basketball that did not play college ball.
yeah, it is absolutely wild.
That is major, because Master P played in the league. I don't know if he played any regular season games. I know he played preseason for the Raptors and for the Hornets back in the day, but I don't remember. I think Master P played in college, so it's a little bit different. And I think he was younger than 35. That's impressive. Most pros are finding their way towards the exit at 35. Cole's
Yeah.
jumping from the top of the rap charts into the hoop league in Africa, nonetheless, which is home to plenty of NBA prospects, and plenty of people in the NBA come from Africa. So there's still some competition out there. That'll be dope to check out. Today, we have a very special guest. We're going to be talking about consumer experience and designing your consumer experience. Our guest, Laura Han with Laura Loo Experience Design, I believe. I'm going to bring her in, and then she's going to correct me if I said that wrong. How are you doing today, Laura?
Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah,
Of
it's Laura
course.
Loo Experience Design, but pretty close.
I added one word in there. I was trying to get the keyword for SEO purposes. That's where it was coming from. Yeah, so we wanted to bring Laura on here and talk. Joey and I have obviously been, cannabis industry veterans since cannabis got legalized in Washington 5-6 years. I don't know, whenever it got legalized at this point, 6 years ago. Joey's been in California the last couple of years. We've been up and down the West Coast. We've been to hundreds of dispensaries. Worked with these guys, done consulting, done a lot of things, seen the industry progress and mature. And Laura has a lot of experience in corporate America and just retail outside of cannabis, and has brought this into cannabis a little bit. And we've had a couple super interesting conversations. So, Laura, could you give us a little bit of background on yourself pre-cannabis, and then we'll break into the cannabis in a moment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm in Iowa, and so I look at you guys, and I'm super jealous that you have so much access to great product, and we don't. So I kind of wear that badge pretty proud and loud, because I get to represent a vast majority of folks out there that that don't have the access that they need. So it's been a really good lens and perspective to have. So I was in corporate America for 17 years. I worked for a large healthcare membership organization that spanned the entire gamut of healthcare services. So highly compliant, regulated industry, and it was all membership model based. And so it was a unique perspective, because we had to help our members, who were small, passionate, independent medical providers to patients and caregivers, survive and thrive in less than likely circumstances. A big part of that corporate world was I was part of the web design division. And so I was, for 13 years, a creative director, did all things with user experience, content strategy, and design. So I'm a big techie. I love all things web and digital. And so that's really why I kind of got into user experience and customer experience design is from that digital background. So we did a lot of banking websites and healthcare websites, e-com, things like that.
Absolutely. And that's where you and I really connected on when we first spoke, is how valuable that whole ecosystem really is, and how the cannabis industry is truly lacking, not just it in general, but just a lot of it across the board. There's so much of it, and just so many, whether it's the econ side of it, the website, and the consumer experience side of it. There's so many different things that they're not even doing or thinking about at this point.
Yeah, but that's opportunity, right? I mean,
Yep.
it takes little tweaks, and it's not, rocket science. And I think just with someone, knowing some of the principles and thinking of it and making part of your culture, it's something that's definitely attainable.
Absolutely.
100%, 100%. And so, and that's the thing, the user experience, customer experience, if you're a website, if you're a retail business, like that is the bread and butter of what you do. Your customers or your web visitors, like that's the meat and potatoes of whatever you do is to increase that right there. And a lot of, our conversation, and I've looked through some of your documents, a lot of that is built on, building this relationship and trust and validity and just it's a two-way relationship with these, whether it's web visitors or consumers, to build, people that are loyal to your brand. Obviously, I know, speaking to you, you're not as much like the profit and loss side of it, but the business side, if you have more customers, better retained customers, more loyal customers, that will increase your bottom line. But I know from your standpoint, it's more about authentically connecting with people and building up this two-way relationship.
Yeah, for sure. But to your point of, the business sense, obviously it does make sense, and additional revenue, and you've got brand loyalty, and you don't have to worry about bringing on so many new customers. Keeping your older ones is a lot less costly to the business. But if you think about how much you're losing by providing bad service. So, by the time that you've got a culture of maybe like your team, if you're having to hire all the time because you don't have a great culture, there's a lot of cost that goes into training and retaining employees. And then, of course, like with the e-com side, if you have a poor experience and people are abandoning that shopping cart, or they're not getting the help that they need, and they're sucking up your customer experience or service resources, then that's also costing you a lot of money. So there's kind of two different ways to look at it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We had our guest a couple weeks ago, Barry Hurd, a data wizard. I don't know, we had a hard time pinpointing a singular title for him, but he said something that's so profound, it's still on my mind, about how a lot of he was speaking about dispensaries specifically, on how a lot of them choose to pull away, like rush everything for certain tasks, put all their staff on one thing, and maybe ignore certain customers because they're taking their bud tenders and making them wear too many hats to where they can't just deal with the customers. And he said, what did he say? He said one employee touches potentially thousands of customers. And so just the value of training up your employees, having your employees all in congruence with the company or brand mission and values is just so key. And I think that's to your point of like the cost of bad hires, or the cost of bad culture, or the cost of neglecting creating culture, and that experience is incredibly high.
Well, and think about the culture of autonomy as well. And so, part of what I coach around is being unapologetically user focused, and then coming up with your experience vision. So the key question I always ask is, what's the change in the world that you want to make for the people that you serve in 3 to 5 years? Because then it's like a stake in the sand that your entire team is marching towards, and they know what they're doing every day. And so then when they feel like they know what the mission and the vision of the company is, and the experience that they're trying to provide, then they have the autonomy to make the right decision for the company as well as the customer. And so, what greater thing than to have trust from your employees that they're going to make the right choices?
Right.
It's huge.
Could you walk us through a little bit? I know there's a lot to it and a lot of nuances based on industry, but can you walk us a little bit through kind of your process of looking at a business or a website, how you kind of audit that of where it's at, and how you pick and choose what goals and where these stakes or these North Stars are at?
Yeah, the first thing is that experience vision, because, and that's usually an internal thing. It's different from your corporate mission and vision. That experience vision is something that will evolve over time, because your products and services will change, and as they should, as your customers evolve and change. So that experience vision is a guiding light that I always start with, because once you have that, then you have an idea of who you can best serve, which is your personas. So coming up with that avatar, really knowing who they are, and honestly, it's not just like it's Bob who is age 25 to 35 and likes music. It's going into what types of actions is that person taking to try to accomplish their goal, and figuring out where it sucks, honestly, and you get to be the one that helps fill those gaps and make it better and plus it. So that's a lot of times in that journey, I'm looking at the personas and then what is the current experience for people out there trying to possibly use your services. And then we build a customer journey map. And so, there's many ways of doing that. And those 5 key things are awareness, consideration, purchase, retention, and loyalty. And that could be that customer journey map for the online web presence, or it could be the entire, all the touch points from the e-com to them leaving your store. And the nice thing about customer experience design is you can put some qualitative and quantitative measures around it. So you could do, use your voice of customer tools like a chat. You could do surveying, but my favorite is watching people. So you've heard of like method acting. So it's kind of sitting back and watching how people are interacting in person. Like, what are their nonverbals? Are they getting super nervous about the process? Are they kind of hovering around, not sure what to do? It's watching people and seeing what they're
about how much time or so do you put in store doing that, or do you put on site doing that?
Honestly, it's doing it a couple times during the day, and so even an hour at a time. And it's just, you can either, it's called, with customer discovery, you could go up to those folks and ask them some different open-ended questions. People are usually pretty good about giving their feedback as to what they're like, or could use some help with. But really,
so easy to do.
It's
so easy to do.
Yeah. Another thing internally with your culture is, I've heard, put a sheet of paper up on the back wall that just says, how could my day been better? And so they can start writing things down that, the owner can take a look at to see if there's repeatable things that, little tweaks that could be made that just makes the lives of those bud tenders easier. And then, of course, that's going to reflect to the experience of the customers.
Absolutely.
And so a question that I have, because this is so common. I know Joey's going to agree with me. We constantly go to dispensaries and ask them, like, who is your target customer? Who's your ideal customer? Basically the dumbed down version of personas. And I mean, 99% of these guys can't even answer it. They're like everyone.
Or it's one word. Everyone.
Yeah, and it's you can't build a brand, you can't build messaging, and you can't build marketing that is everything for everyone. It's an impossible task. It's incredibly expensive, and there's just no. I mean, there's the phrase "you can't please everyone" is true. So what is? I think one of the hurdles of that is people are so turned off of, if I feel like I have an ideal customer, that turns away all these other people. So what is kind of your thought process of building personas and kind of easing people's nerves? Because every brand has its ideal customer, but plenty of people still buy it, whether they're inside that ideal customer or not. But kind of how do you approach communicating that to people that might be resistant to that?
Yeah. And I think that is sometimes a generational thing too, is, back when we didn't have data and we didn't know how to personalize things, you only could, market to everyone. And so that definitely is a culture shift. Another thing is going back to the experience vision and your personal brand. Gone are the days where it's just a straight up business and there's no heart or personality to it. It's, your vibe attracts your tribe. And so I think by establishing your experience vision and building up your own personal and company, corporate brand, you are naturally telling the world kind of who you are best serving. And those people are going to come to you. And obviously you have to support that with all the messaging and thought leadership, education, and so on to keep them. But that also exposes you to broadening that out to allow additional people coming in. And to my point earlier of that experience vision and how you evolve over time, you get smarter as a business owner, and you kind of figure out, there's certain types of products or categories that work better for you. And so that can shift. And so that allows you, you're not always just stuck with one type of target customer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that just, I don't
Very
know
true.
why it's just consistently a hurdle. I'm sure it's probably not specific just to cannabis. That just happens to be the realm that we work in and day out.
Yeah.
But it just reigns true. And so for you, how often do you work with businesses where they kind of have their personas already carved out, or how much of you is kind of educating the importance of that as one of the first steps?
It's constant. So, yeah, oftentimes brands will go right to tactics. And so they immediately want to start going to social media and kind of doing the spray and pray and creating things, where I'm definitely kind of that higher level strategy of thinking about, setting that solid foundation and then building upon that, and kind of looking backwards. So I'm doing a lot of education around what it is to have a personal brand, being a thought leader in the space, being, education is key. I consistently hear that we are overinformed and undereducated. And when it comes to like a channel like your website, it's such a great way to be able to provide and use that as an extension of your personal and brand to help, build people in.
And that's something that's valuable to anyone, because we have a lot of our audience, a lot of our audience is cannabis, but a lot of it is music. And so even for music people out there that are listening to this, while you might think, oh, retail, website, experience, dispensary, that doesn't have anything to do with me, it still has everything to do with you, of understanding your brand. And for those that are spraying and praying, like you're saying, just putting songs or music videos out and not really getting the traction that you want, there's nothing wrong with taking that step back and kind of,
there's a lot of reasons why that's not happening.
Yeah, realizing what your brand is, what your messaging is, and then you can look at the songs you put out and the music videos you put out and understand, is this in congruence with everything else, or am I truly just spraying and praying?
Yeah. Well, and people have a pretty big BS detector. And, your personal brand is the essence of what somebody says about you when you're not in the room. And so, that can apply to, as an individual in the music biz, or, to retail outside of cannabis. You get to curate what you want that to be, but it has to be real. I mean, people will see through it if you are coming up with something that you're just not.
Right. And an important thing, like you said, what people say about you when you're not there. Another common thing in cannabis, and Joe, you'll feel me, is a lot of people haven't had to, because the industry is so mature. Some people were blessed with licenses early on and just started selling products simply because supply and demand was in their favor. No other reasoning than that. And they have something in their head where they don't need to worry about branding or messaging or any of these things, and they'll be sorely mistaken when competition heats up as the industry matures. But you are sending out you're sending out marketing messages, and you have a brand, regardless if it's intentional or conscious or not, because like just what you said, the definition is really what people are speaking about you when you're not there. Whether you're intentionally spending money on it or have a person handling it or not, people are still thinking things, perceiving things, and saying things. And so a big part of what we always talk about is doing your best to take control of that narrative and be intentional with it.
Well, and to that point, a stat that I just recently read was that 80% of leadership believe that they have a phenomenal customer experience, whereas in turn it's only like 8% of when you actually ask the customers what they feel about the experience.
85 to 8?
Yeah. So it's that kind of goes to ego. And so they, they think they're doing a great job. And so obviously there's a disconnect between what they feel is happening and what's really going on. And the key is, the staff. I mean, they're the ones that are, they're going to bridge that gap and make that a much better experience for those folks. And unfortunately, I've heard a lot of stories about how they do bring up their concerns to leadership, but again, they don't care. I mean, there's people in the line and they're around the corner, so everything is great.
Right. And
Yeah.
again, those people around the line are not because you have that 85% customer satisfaction. There is another reason there. And so that is one of those things where your bottom line or even the line of customers is not telling the full story, right?
Yeah.
And so what do you see? I mean, you're coming from a state where cannabis is super. I mean, it's almost non-existent, but compared to what we have geographically, to an extent, um, of this education level, what are some ways that people can reach that audience? I know that's a really broad question, but what are some ways that people can help bridge that gap to whether it's maybe not obviously not marketing to people out of state, but people in their city that are, we call them canna curious, right? They're not as educated, they're not as informed. What are some ways that people can reach those people, and what are some of the avenues that can effectively communicate to that crowd?
Well, there's a couple things. Cannabis tourism and travel is a huge opportunity. So I always like to equate design thinking, which is, you're pairing something that people are familiar with, and then you plus it with something new. So people always say, like, it's the Microsoft of this, because it's something you're familiar with, and then you pair it with something new. And so when it comes to travel and tourism, everybody loves that aspect of it. And so if they can travel to a city and then do some type of an experience, being kind of curious, it's a low barrier of entry. It's easy. It's going to make them feel comfortable. Usually, because the travel and tourism industry is so dependent on immaculate customer experience, they're going to go overboard to provide, maybe a toolkit in advance, have somebody that's a concierge that asks questions or answers questions and really guides them as to what they should do so they feel good. And so, of course, then they travel back to the state and we'll tell everybody about it. So I think that's a huge opportunity for everybody across the United States, of course, internationally. The second thing is people are doing their own research. It's so many people are online trying to figure out and ask questions, and they don't know what they don't know, but they're going to come across some information. And how great would it be if they come across good and great information?
Absolutely.
There's so much misinformation out there, and it's really unfortunate. Even tools like Clubhouse have been really great for me because I want to be an informed consumer. I don't want to be embarrassed. Like, if I go to a dispensary, the last thing I want to do is be made feel like I'm stupid and I don't know what to ask. So I'm going to do everything I can to try to be an informed consumer before I walk into that space. So I'm going to look online, and if I find a website that provides the information to me, I'm already, a couple steps ahead of liking that and becoming loyal and trusting that brand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of like what Joey and I specifically do for a living, is preach people to take answer those questions in content form on the internet. And exactly, you said it right. Like, if I search something and you find a resource and this person also happens to be a supplier of the same resource that I'm seeking, I'm building this trust level online. And then if I go in and that experience continues in the physical form, I mean, it's going to be hard to break that bond, right? For another brand or another store.
Yeah.
So how much is looking at the customer experience, for companies that are putting information on the internet, how much is it looking at the digital side and how much is it looking at the physical, and then making sure they're in congruence? Is it a 50-50 or how do you kind of look at that? I mean, again, I know that's a broad question that probably has a lot of nuances and changes from occasion to occasion.
Well, I mean, congruency, like, you want to make sure all your touch points are consistent for your brand. So that's just always a given, something that I preach. Gosh, it is tough. I think pre-COVID, the digital wasn't as big of a, people weren't paying as much attention to it. And so it was just an afterthought. Like, everybody just knows you have to have a website. And so now with COVID, it's the most important tool I think you can have. If you're trying to, get to folks that are staying at home and have to have it delivered to them, that web presence is so key. I think it's going to be great. People are going to be seeking and really craving the retail brick and mortar experience at some point. But for right now, I mean, if it was numbers, I would do, 60%, 40%. Like, just please make sure your online presence is just top notch.
It's pretty undeniable that a large part of dispensaries' consumer bases are an older population, which are probably not engaging with cannabis content on Facebook where they have their friends and family, right? So it's just like, again, understanding the entire customer process and the journey through, and or how they just they consume social media or use it in the first place, if they're even on it. Otherwise, they're still going to just be on Google.
Well, true. And I used to do websites for, aging in place, for many years. And so it's usually the caregivers that are doing all the research on behalf of their parents and providing that information. So they obviously don't want to provide any wrong information to their parents. And so they're doing all of their due diligence. And so the website is key. Plus, there's also the sphere of influence. And so, you're going to be asking your friends, or if you do see something on Facebook, because they are on Facebook, if they see some type of post from Mary that was just like, oh, I didn't know she was in that or doing that, like, then often you're going to connect and see like, hey, can you talk to me more about that?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of effect definitely happens. Like,
yeah,
the conversations
more like, groups like, there was a female entrepreneur I was helping. She has her own product, and her family was initially kind of embarrassed that she was in it because of the stigma. But she started making a tea, which again goes back to it's something that we're already used to consuming. And so she has now these little subgroups of their mother-in-law who now invites all of her friends because they trust each other. And so that's how she's building her network, is having these small groups.
Little tea parties.
Yeah, little tea parties. They feel safe, and then they're going out and, of course, expanding that sphere because it's just building it in that organic way.
It's awesome. That's super cool.
What are some of the most important aspects in building through this customer experience in building lifetime customers?
The overall experience with your training of staff. I mean, they are everything. Your website to your in-person, they are the ones that are going to inspire that loyalty. It's human interaction. It's being present. And if somebody says it's their birthday or it's coming up next week and they come back in, it's remembering that person and it's at their birthday. Like that little moment, those are moments of delight that person will forever remember. And it's so small, but it really makes a big difference in somebody's life.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more on that.
Having those little moments are phenomenal to have. And then as well as, perks. I mean, everybody loves perks. And I know there's so many loyalty systems, but and that's the reason they exist, is because they work. And so we've talked about, in that threshold of the first 30 days, if you can maximize on what has been purchased and what they're doing and build upon that, the better. And seeking their feedback too. People, if it's done in a real and authentic way, then a lot of people are very willing to give their information and about that experience. And if it's easy, I'm not a really big proponent to online surveys. I think that sometimes that's just checking a box versus it being true and authentic. So again, the point of watching customers, being available, looking at online social media chatter, just getting a sense of what's going on in the landscape of the people that you serve.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's key. It's funny. I just did a review, or I'm trying to think, like a testimony for someone that works with us in the web space the other day. And it was like right after we finished the product, and he was all like, I don't really want to ask you for this, but ask, hey, could you give me a little testimony? And I just had a great experience. So even though I'm friends with him, I was able to write a very authentic, built off of the work we just did. If he asked me in a month or 2 months down the line, I don't think I wouldn't have been as good of a testimony. I had these real examples and value points I could plug on. But one of the things that you said that I want to emphasize and explore maybe a little bit more is those moments of delight. That was something that stood out when we spoke last time. probably because I don't use that personally. I just don't use that word in my vocabulary. But it makes sense. And then when you made that example of just remembering someone's birthday, like that's the same, why we have our favorite coffee shop, our favorite bar, even our favorite bartender, whatever, why we prefer this brand, even though it's more expensive and the same thing over there. And we might not be able to conceptualize why, but it's exactly those things right there, right? These points of delight and just these positive experiences and touch points we've had with brands or with people that represent those brands.
Yeah, one of my favorite examples is there's a company called Thelma's Cookies. And so, you can't make a huge margin on cookies, but it's a $3 cookie. And so what they decided to do pre-COVID was they built these boxes that were designed to look like ovens. And so it was all food. They would bake them immediately fresh, put them in these boxes and deliver it to your business or your home. And of course, as you open up this oven, the smell of fresh cookies come out. And so that was, yeah, so that's a moment of delight where everybody's like, oh, they lose their mind over this type of stuff. And they were able to charge, $50 to $80 just for that box to be delivered. So they took a product and they made it an experience. And I think, of course, in listing all the senses, I mean, smell, and then there's the tactile, you have your group of people around you that can have that shared experience. And obviously that's something that was shareable online. So they are able to get tag and things like that. So I think there's
genius.
That's and it's so simple. And so, if you think about your retail experience and doing little things like, for instance, 2 different colors of carts when you are shopping. So there could be a color of cart for somebody that is experienced, knows what they're doing, they're in and out. And then you could have a subtle color for those that need help. And so as they're walking around, they've got a different color, and it's a signal only to staff saying, hey, I would love additional support over here without having to say, like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. That's interesting. There's some dispensaries here in California, San Luis Obispo, and also in San Diego, where you can actually walk into a dispensary. There's only limited people inside, and you actually have baskets lying around. And so it would be interesting in those tourist markets for you to have a color-coded basket at all the touristy entry points. But then someone like me who walks into a store like that is going to go straight to an area for a product I'm looking for, and then have a different basket specifically set there. Right.
Well, and there's also psychology around it, because if you have a basket, you feel a little bad only putting one thing in it. And so if you are a consumer, they're most likely, if they've gotten the help that they wanted, they're most likely going to be placing more things in that basket. So good customer experience design, it's just knowing the psychology of buyers.
I mean, all these dispensaries have security cameras. There's security guards at all the spots, roaming on the floor at all the points. It's like, how much items are you really losing in the dispensary retail is not a Walmart. You know what I mean? It's not like you're at Target where there's open spaces, you know what I mean? And all that stuff, right? Where in retail, I guess theft is actually a big deal in a lot of big box places. So cannabis, I don't imagine that that's probably the case. I think in staff probably would be more likely to do things like that, right? I hear probably more about that, but I think what you said there is definitely super important, right? There's traditional retail psychology aspects that people are just not considering or even viewing, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on, because people need to hear this stuff. They need to hear it over and over and over from experts that we're not experts. You are. So very much appreciate you. Mitch, what else you got? I'm loving this.
Well,
Moments of delight, man. Let's go.
I wanted to take a step back because I know you listed them. There's the 5 points of a customer journey, correct? And so when building out personas, right, it's people need to be conscious and aware of where those different personas are going to need more assistance on that journey, correct? Like that's probably a part of it. Whereas, that first stage of educate, like you just said, if I'm in here and I'm an informed customer and I'm, buying high volume, I know what I want. I don't want you to come over and to give me one-on-one information, as opposed there are customers that very much need that. And so what's kind of your thought process on making sure organizations just kind of have that understood of like how I can feel out customers and identify what persona they fit or where they fit in this journey so I can best cater, like meet them where they're at,
Yeah.
or quickly walk through them to identify where they're at rather than just treating every single person like the same as the person in front or behind them.
Well, and so when we build that persona, we actually do, like, we have a full picture of somebody, and we know their habits, we know where they're going online, we know how they like to consume information. And so if I know it's Mary and she is, let's say, in that older population, um, she has money to spend and she just wants somebody to help her out. And so because of the older demos, they are on Facebook. They're now there. Um, they're most likely not on TikTok. So let's just have that contrast. So in
Right.
that first customer journey of the awareness, it helps you understand that you don't have to be all places and all things to everyone.
Mm.
And so if I know that my primary target and profitable target is Mary on Facebook, then I'm going to spend my time and attention providing posts and education and maybe some education, edutainment videos on Facebook that kind of help ease them into making a buying decision.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yep.
that customer journey Joey and I were just talking about the other day, it fits in right with the similar the sales or marketing funnel, right? Of building awareness. And I think a mindset of a lot of people is understanding, from a marketing standpoint or advertising standpoint, is what you're putting out there and what part of that journey or funnel are you actually touching? Because so often do people spend on things that are simply on the awareness side and then immediately are like, well, where's my ROI? And it's like, well, there's a couple more steps we got to walk these people down before you can accurately gauge that ROI. So what are some of the things of just, I don't want to keep hammering just this customer journey, but getting these companies or decision makers to understand it is a journey, it is a funnel, it is staircase, steps, whatever metaphor you want to take. But understanding that certain energy isn't going to necessarily result in direct, immediate ROI.
Yeah. And those steps can differ depending on what type of model you have. For membership models and subscription, that is a little bit different. But I usually, there's so many companies that there's great branding and marketing companies that will always focus on those first 3 steps to get you to purchase. And so I feel like there are a lot of great resources out there already to help people get people to a purchase. So I really focus in on those last 2, which is the retention and loyalty, because that's on the back end. That's so many good reasons to have attention there, because then you don't have to train up. Well, you always want new customers, but if you can keep your customers, that's great.
Yeah.
So it's providing tons of education on the back end. It's doing the follow up to see what their experience was, whether it was good or bad, and then making the changes and letting them know those changes were made. And then there's just, getting some of those reviews, posting them for sure, but get some way of capturing their story, and so that they can share your story on your behalf. That's, I think that's one of the keys to marketing, is to the point of having a great brand. What are people saying about you when you're not in the room? Well, those are the stories. So if you are making such a great impression on the people that you serve, simply asking them for their story on your behalf is a great way to of course, inspire and get more people into that funnel.
Absolutely. When I used to work at a dispensary in Seattle, we had we had a pretty large friends and family discount, and without much of a marketing budget, one of the things that I would use was just that. If you would, obviously, I think the standard thing at dispensaries is if you leave a review, get 20% off, right? But that's everyone does that, so no one feels special. But our dispensary was 40%. So at that point, what we did for that is that you could do multiple reviews and get 40%, because the value of it on Facebook or on Google or on Weed Maps or Leafly are all different. And multiple ones on each of those is massive. thousands of eyes can potentially see that. Those reviews have power because those platforms aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So that was part of the strategy. Instead of spending money, just save the margin, right? Lose a little bit of there, and focus on the last two steps of that, because they were already in the dispensary and they were clearly looking for, that neighborhood relationship, that long-term caregiving culture, I guess is the right word.
And I think even going a step beyond the words, because sometimes there's an emotional disconnect when you see somebody's words up on a screen versus like their face.
100%.
If you're able to do that, ask and have them do a quick 10-second video, happy, or even if they're upset, like that's still a training opportunity for people.
Yeah.
That usually those that are upset and are willing to tell you about it, if you make that change in your culture and let them know that you appreciate their feedback and this is what you did to make that change, and like 9 times out of 10 they become your most loyal brand ambassador.
Oh yeah, they want that to happen, and they're willing to go to war for it. And if you make it happen, you get all the benefits of getting them, having that moment of delight that you just created, that you put yourself in a corner for. And if you ruin it, you just ruined something that could have been so great. And it was honestly so easy. Even if it's a $20, sometimes it's over $20 in the rotary. Sometimes it's over, an ounce that's $400, and you're looking for an $80 discount for 20%, right? Just doing the right thing in those moments, just to get them out of there and, be what's right. They'll continue coming back because you did what's right in that moment, and that's when they become $400 times a monthly patient, which is thousands of dollars a year. So it's like, as long as your business is around, they're going to continue coming back to you because you treat them right every time. It's consistently, ideally.
Yeah.
Yeah, becoming that hero, right? Because how often do we have just an average? I went in, I bought it at the price I expected, I left. I mean, great. I'm not running to Yelp to praise this person for this super average ass experience.
Yeah.
But how often could you go in there pissed off about something, like, at a 9 out of 10 in anger, and someone takes the time to let you maybe vent a little bit, walks you through it, makes it right, and then you go from a 9 out of 10 on anger to a 10 out of 10 on satisfaction, and you're like, dude, Jenny there, like, she's the truth. This store is the truth. I'm about to write reviews on multiple platforms, and I'm telling, anytime this product or service comes up, I'm putting their name out there, right?
Yeah.
That opportunity to become that hero for these people and their customer experience, it's invaluable.
Yeah.
And too often do we see decision makers or managers, kind of just treat customers like, oh, customers complaining, get them the fuck out of here. We don't need, we don't need you. We have more customers, when it's should be, this is an opportunity to turn an average customer to a super fan.
I mean, if the staff is trained right, like you mentioned, if all these different parts of the journey are really taken care of, and a nice, welcoming, consistent, educational, situational upsell kind of thing can happen, that's like appropriate, right? Because some people hate the upsell word, but it's like, offer me a drink on a hot day. Sell me the coffee and cocoa and candies on all the holidays, please. Like, offer me things. Tell me about things that exist. So often Mitch and I go places and they don't tell us anything. There's no update on the daily specials. It's just, hey, what brings you in today? And it's just the most lazy, worthless effort of service to us, and I think that's maybe a part of the reason why, I don't like to go out to eat, because I feel like for whatever reason, our generation just doesn't do that. It's just like, you really got to curate a culture and craft that to really care and go out there and get it. And I think your idea earlier of getting video, testimonials, or even just feedback and asking people, I think, not to say it's simple by any means, it's extremely important, but at the dispensary level, I remember being there on the day-to-day for hours and hours and thinking, God, if every person here was as consistent as a McDonald's employee that asked me to donate to Ronald McDonald's every time, and that they just, instead if it was Ronald McDonald for weed, if it was them talking about a specific thing every day that I asked as part of marketing, we would sell one different specific thing every day more often than other stuff. And we would move through things that were dusty, old, or drying out or getting moldy, right? And so it's like, but no one, in theory, none of these dispensers really have that control because they don't even try, right? That's what's really unfortunate is they don't even try to have that daily meeting. Hey, everybody's pushing this. Hey, everyone's asking to donate today. Hey, we're pushing this, food drive. They might do it for little campaigns here and there, right? For the food drive or the holiday stuff, but they certainly don't apply it on like a, hello, Laura, welcome back. Yeah, it's great. Today we're actually doing this today. I don't know if you know that we usually do this, but this is what we have going on. No one has standard greetings. No one has a standard little informational, educational thing going on. It's the same old everywhere, if they have anything. I can't. There's also a lot of stores that don't even have any culture. There's no daily specials. They maybe have a promo vendor thing going on inside. You know what I mean? But if it's in California, they're typically sitting down. Terrible.
Even the nonverbals. I mean, there's just so many little things that you can do,
Right.
like eye contact and
Oh,
smiling and just letting somebody know that you're not a nuisance. Like,
right.
one of the most common things I hear is just they feel like they're annoying the people that they're buying from.
Right. No, it is true. And as a consumer, and I worked in the mall and I hated having to do the standard greeting. And I worked at a restaurant. I worked at a Pizza Hut and I hated having to do, you want to pop with that or you want breadsticks with that. But people are like, oh yeah, I totally forgot, and it's like at the dispensary level, hey, do you need any hemp wraps or any rolling papers? That you could say that at the end of every
single time.
You would probably 300x your rolling paper sales just for people being like, oh shit, I do need, you know what I mean? I got so lost looking at all these strains. Yeah, I don't have anything to roll this up in.
Absolutely. That. Hey, do you need a replacement pipe for a gift during the holiday season, the entire month? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, and then like you said earlier about surveying, I'll key in on this part too, because as you were saying the surveying stuff earlier, I was like, it's so easy to have every bud tender have one question included in every conversation and to switch it up weekly. It's only 4 questions a month. It's not like you're straining someone's brain on it's easy. Hey, every single person you ask today, don't forget to ask them this.
Yeah.
Easy.
How could you have made your day better?
Is there anything that I could have done today to help you make your day better? You know what? Maybe it would have been cool for you to do this. Like,
right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll write that down. Got you. Yeah. All right. So easy.
And that's even if the vast majority of people said no, like you're not upset. Someone asking you a 1-sentence question, you're like, no, I'm good. Like, no, I'm not like, God, this guy's annoying me. Like, I can't believe he asked me that. How the service was, the audacity of this person.
I can't tell you how much. And then also you said identifying someone's like experience level or their level of cannabis use, maybe what kind of customer helps kind of identify what kind of customer they are. 2 questions, right? Hey, have you been here before? No or yes? Okay, cool. Do you possibly know what you're looking for yet? No. All right, cool. This person is brand new to here and they need to be walked through your brand experience. Cool. This way. You know what I mean? And honestly, here in California, so many people have these express pickups. So it's, at least for the people that do know it, they are leveraging that digital, which is exciting to see that switch comprehensively this last year. People just ordering through the website way more often, ordering through Weed Maps way more often. I think Leafly as well, probably in their states that use Leafly. So I think that's just going to continue, right?
100%. So Laura, coming from Iowa, a state where is cannabis is legal there in it's low THC CBD or what is it? And is it THC or cannabis that's derived from THC is legal, or is it just CBD or hemp? Sorry, derived from hemp.
Derived from hemp. Yeah, and it has to be underneath that 0.3%. And there's only like 7 extreme health cases for the medical card. Just overall, it's bad.
Yeah, it's pretty restricted.
Yeah. We're almost pretty much surrounded. All the other states. We've got Chicago, Illinois, Missouri. I think Minnesota's supposed to maybe hopefully turn. Obviously Michigan. So they're losing out on so much to neighboring states. And so one example story is what people put up with. So obviously Illinois is pretty new. So it's a 5-hour drive. And so when you get there, you have to put your name into a lottery. Hopefully you get chosen for that day. If you do get chosen, you have to be there within the 24 hours of signing up. Some people are standing out line in tents before they even get in line for the dispensary. So they might spend in line, 7 hours. They get up to they looked online, and all this time on the website to see what they want. But by the time they get to the dispensary, obviously they don't have enough on demand. So they have a menu right there on paper saying, this is what we've got. This is what you have to choose from. Go to this spot, tell them what you want, and then you get out like cattle. So, it's not ideal. And that is their first experience of a dispensary. And so that is forever locked in their head that's what it is. Plus it's super expensive as well. So, so, there's going to have to be like undoing some of those experiences that have been now permanently kind of indented in their brain.
The my experience in downtown Chicago was as a first time visitor, 21 plus rec patient, 38 degrees, had to stand outside for 48 minutes because they took all the curbside and pickup patients first, and they were only taking walk-ins like every 15 or 20 minutes, one at a time, maybe two at a time. It was absolutely wild. And I was asking in the line, like, hey, is this how it is at all the other dispensaries? Is it any better anywhere else? And they just said, no, it is this way everywhere. And so, like, to what you said, it's like, I can't imagine being a patient that's literally having to go cross state lines just to survive and maintain a quality of life at this point. I grew up in Indiana, but I wasn't utilizing cannabis at a young age by any means. It wasn't until I was in Washington. And, to all, my heart goes out to all those people because I'm in pain sitting here right now because I'm like not on my RSO and full spec oil. I'm blessed to have access to all the quality cannabis oils out here, but hopefully soon enough, man, we're all going to get not necessarily I don't think a federal sweep is going to happen, but all these individual states are hopefully going to feel the pressure and just start happening because they're missing out on a lot of money to help their infrastructure, to help their school programs, to really give back to the sports and culture programs that have been cut in the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, that is tragic, man. That's tragic that has.
Can't imagine living in the places where I wouldn't be able to take care of myself. I'd be dying. I'd look so unhealthy. I would be so unhealthy.
And that is the disheartening thing is that as I put myself out there more, it's like, the one girl in Iowa that does, in cannabis business. I do have people approach me all the time. I'll be like at the dentist and I say what I do. And they're like, oh my gosh, I've got this, my mom has this, or, a friend has this, and what can I do to help them? I'm like, oh, it just hurts my heart that,
And it's so different for you, because we're from Washington, where we were the second state to have recreational cannabis for sale, and we were an outlier, and now at this point, it's like you guys are almost an outlier as the dominoes are falling, and it's the other side of the spectrum of, we had this exciting new thing that no one else had, and now it's turning into part of the country has access and part of the country has very, very limited access, and part of the country has absolutely none. And so that education process, as brands expand and federal legalization comes on, you're going to have this consumer journey, especially in the online spectrum, is going to be so important because geographically you're going to have people that are just at different sides of the spectrum that have seen cannabis for 5 or 6 years and it's normal to them, that have only seen it for a year or two, and people that it's just becoming fresh and brand new to. So this is something, what you're doing is going to become, it's already is key, and Joey and I can already identify it's key in the mature markets, but as the entire country topples over into legalization, it's going to be super, super important for brands to pay attention to this, to
Mm-hmm.
differentiate themselves from others and really build out audiences and consumer bases.
These dispensaries, these brands, the cultivators, the extractions, anybody watching this who grows weed, sells weed in any capacity, in any form, you guys got to stop relying on Leafly and Weed Maps to do your job for you. You need to start getting the educational content that you keep searching for yourself about your brand or about your products or about your vapes and oil and dabs and all these different things that you sell, all the different types of oils that are out there, the retailers you work with, the locations, the cities. You can't rely on Weed Maps and Leafly. You can't pay them all the money. You know why? Because as soon as I search your product and I'm on their brand page, I'm getting hit with your competitors' ads and getting hit with other people's content and their menus and all this other stuff. And at that point, I've already forgotten about you because I just looked at 57 other companies' stuff in 30 seconds. And so it's a wash. And so, to reiterate so many different things that we've talked about here tonight, everybody just content, customer journey, the experience, these personas, identifying and creating and crafting these moments of delight based on different types of customers that come in your store, making sure you really curate the right culture at your business is going to be huge. And to anybody that has any questions, any dispensaries in the Respect My Region network, any delivery services, anybody watching this, reach out to us, reach out to Laura if you have any questions. We really appreciate you being here on the show with us. Do you have any questions for us, or Mitch? Do you have anything on here before we get on out of here?
Laura, if there's anything that you would like to plug or that Joey didn't highlight, please plug away.
Yeah. One thing I've learned as this market continues to mature is that I'm trying to break it down so it's easy. So, I will help you either map out that customer journey, whether it's the website or you're in person or the entire thing, help build out personas. I do UX reviews just to see if there's some top hits of things that you might want to consider in your build or, after it's been built. And please visit me. I have all the social channels, but my website is customerdelightprocess.com. And I just appreciate being here today.
Awesome. We really appreciate you being on here and spending time with us. I know I learned some stuff and got my wheels turning. I'm very excited to be talking and getting in the ears of all my buyers right after this. So
it's like I said, when we first talked, you speak the same language that we speak, man. So it is honestly, I'll use the word, it's a delight to speak to you, man. It truly
for real.
Yeah, I got you. It's a delight. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Laura. We'll be talking to you soon. Appreciate you hopping on here with us.
Thank you so much. Have a good
day. Thank you. Bye. You as well.
Man, so that was awesome. It is always awesome to connect with people that have different experiences, us coming from the West Coast, the most mature market, to, talking to someone and sharing their experiences in a market that is so different from ours. That is always just a personal pleasure of mine. But also just everything that Laura is talking about and doing is just something that we've been preaching in a little bit more modified and controlled way with the experience to back it. There was quite a bit of takeaways. I'm trying to think of where my notes are at.
Well, I think there's a lot to be said about it, applying what we talked about in terms of cannabis and CBD, right? Websites, the in-stores experiences, the delivery experience. There's so many branding points, right? If your company is built around selling fire and weed that smells really good, the oven idea is wonderful. Putting things in and having unique packaging or unique, like just having your delivered stuff be inside certain things and have that end thing be delivered and handed in a certain way. I think that's super unique and people can really run on and spin on that idea. I think that's something that's super cool. I also really like, some of the points we talked about it, conversationally. Standard greetings should be a thing in cannabis. It is a little dry, it is a little boring, but the reminders do drive business, and it does provide a culture of more customer service. I'm not sitting here saying every dispensary should become the next Target, but or Nordstrom's or the Rack or whatever it is, but they certainly ask if I need any help way more often than bud tenders do, right. And they certainly make more recommendations when I go to those kinds of places. Every time I go to a Lids or a Champs, they're super friendly. They're very respectful. They look you right in the face. They don't brush you off. They're there trying to help you, and they're trying to kill it. So at least that's the vibe I get.
Yeah, the personas and understanding, and again, from she said, she's a little bit more focused professionally on those bottom sides of the funnel,
the loyalty and the retaining and all that.
But for us, like, one of the challenges we brought up briefly there, but one of the challenges is for people and brands or musicians, right? Because that's part of our audience, to really understand that it is a funnel or a journey to getting a conversion, whether it's building a fan or building a customer. I mean, and there's a journey to get the single listen, the first listen, the first watch of a music video, let alone the first purchase at the store. And then there's obviously things to turn that person into a lifetime customer, someone that champions your brand or an actual fan in the music world. But people need to understand that, and there's different components, because so often do we see cannabis brands or musicians who have small budgets, they can't spend on marketing and even thinking the strategy for all these different points, but being able to understand what you're doing. I'm putting this content out there, or this messaging or this advertising out here simply for this part of the journey to this particular people. And that way you can measure the success of it, rather than doing something that's simply on the awareness level and then wondering why you got no conversions. It's because you didn't, what you did, it's not, you ran a running play and then your quarterback threw it downfield and there was nobody there to catch the ball because you didn't, you know what I mean? You're not paying attention to what play is being
Yeah, the
called.
dots really got to connect. You can't jump and skip over certain things. You can if you can identify that your brand is ready for certain things, but understanding I mean, customers. Well, hold on, let's take a step back. Dispensaries can really look at their POS reports, and rappers, and if anybody with an Instagram analytics can look at enough data to really create enough personas to start saying, look, I'm going to make content to hit these kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
I can start making small little decisions, and a little bit of guesswork will let you test. And the stuff that performs best, go do that again. The stuff, and then do a couple of different versions of that. Run it through the stories, run the ads. It all is different. None of it's copy pastable, right? It all is going to be customized from dispensary to dispensary, from artist to artist, label to label, ad situation, and video to video. What I really enjoy is thinking the dispensary stuff through all the way in terms of the conversations, the content, and the SEO searches. As I mentioned, you can't rely on Leafly and Weed Maps to have every single strain search. How is it going to lead to your dispensary?
Right.
If I'm in a parking lot, I always say this to people: if I'm in your parking lot and I'm looking up a strain that just got added to your menu, and it's only going to come up on Leafly, how am I going to end up buying it on your menu?
Right.
I got to leave Leafly. I got to go back to here. I got to then search that one, make a new tab. That's such a journey. Write the article about it, have the landing page ready. As soon as you have new products on the shelves, make sure they're listed so they come up. Just make it sure that stuff comes up, so every time someone Google searches an item from your parking lot, you win that conversation. As soon as they're searching at home for a new item, you have to come up. In terms of music artists, I think the journey is obviously a little bit different, but I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. You've got to really acquire real listeners and viewers the first few times in the right cities, in the right areas, with the people that listen to the similar style of music you're making. You got to really think about it. You mentioned J. Cole at the beginning of the stuff. If your beats sound like J. Cole, or maybe a Jid beat, or maybe it's a DaBaby beat, or maybe it's a Lil Baby beat, or maybe it's a Lil Wayne beat from whatever year, or a Game beat, right? Who knows? Maybe it's YG and Mustard shit from back in the day, right? You got all these different styles, right? Jake Ones, all this stuff. So it's like, identify who those fans are that your beats sound like, and start sending 10 DMs,
Right.
letting them know you make music that sounds like the shit they like already. Ain't nothing wrong with, hey, yo, I notice you're a fan of this artist, and sometimes people say I make music that sounds like that. When you're in your first 1 to 5 years of making music, you should be doing it yourself, or you better find an intern that's doing it for you.
That 30 times a day. There's no excuse to do that.
Nope.
You don't need a team. You individually, every time you take a shit, should send 20 to 30 of those, and you should be shitting every day if you're regular. but I mean, it's just things like that. And then even
the consistency, the real consistency matters.
Always preaching to rappers is, oh, I do a single and it's on all streaming platforms and I got a music video out. So does fucking everybody else and Kendrick Lamar. Why am I passing by Kendrick Lamar to listen to you? If your goal is to gain fans, you should not just be doing here's a music video that you didn't ask for from an artist you didn't know that you're never gonna. So you're never gonna search this
And even
song
if you're
name,
running ads, so
never
that
gonna search
people,
this artist name. You should do freestyles or
it's a disconnect.
or things that's gonna get attention, and then serve those people your music videos.
I get hit with ads.
We get
hit just because I listen to music, I get hit with ads. Just because I listen to artist music, I get hit with ads. And sometimes it does sound like the music that I was listening to from the big artist. But the reality is that you're actually more likely to be like, if you're like, I get hit with ads and I don't listen to the music. I don't listen to the music ever. So people are spending money and I'm getting hit with it. And then people like me don't listen to it. Yes, you're going to retain some of that, but I actually am going to respond to like a bunch of people liking and commenting on my stuff. And then someone sending me a DM saying, hey, I make music. I notice you do some stuff. Like, I'd love to get on the call with you and have a conversation about seeing if you think my stuff is dope and maybe you can use it somewhere.
Yeah.
That is, I'm a music fan. I'm a content creator. A lot of content creators and music fans are just like me. We need music.
Yeah.
I have playlists.
I'm the same, I scroll through Instagram and I get served with music videos. And if it's a fucking dude on front of a car fanning out money, I'm skipping that bitch as quick as I fucking can. And
Yeah.
almost, if anything, I'm making a point, I don't even want to see this dude again because it's so generic. But the moment I see, the dude I can't remember his name, but the ukulele dude, if I see some dude, if I'm in, where I live in Seattle, if I see a guy like Kerry Park with the skyline behind him, homeboy's playing a ukulele and a dude's obviously rapping. Now I'm like, let me check this shit out real quick.
What's going on?
Like, what is happening?
Yeah. That's the same thing that they do with the Inner Banks in LA, right? And all the big artists.
Yeah.
But to that effect, it's like, you could be someone could be rapping and someone could be dancing, in roller skates. There's so many different kinds of creative video content that people aren't exploring. Stop feeding me YouTube videos or just basic music videos. This is why I love TikTok and Triller, because it got people's creativity with music. I would rather listen to your music and watch someone do something creative and paint, drip something, draw a sketch. I would rather watch that than typically watch someone's YouTube video doing the flashing money stuff, unless it's a song that has inspirational qualities to it. I need that feel good element. I think to what Laura said, that moment of delight for me is always something that's like, damn, that was dope. Damn, this beat is hard. Damn, that shit made me feel good. And like, all right, yep, I'm about to go show someone else this song. I think those four things for me is like, yep, that's fire.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, right, is we're sitting here talking about all of the music videos that people spend $500, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. We're saying we don't even want to watch that shit. I want to see the shit that you filmed on your cell phone for fucking free. So why aren't you filming one thing a day?
Yeah, hit me with a freestyle you doing in front of your city. Hit me with a dope cipher content. Hit me with a video you doing something crazy that's a short clip. We just aren't watching 3 to 4 or 5 minute videos like that anymore. Now, I will consume content like that is more like vlogs and documentary stuff, but that has grown over time. I think the majority of people out there are watching TikTok and IG Reels, not IGTVs, not YouTube videos and things like that. And so although people make money on the YouTube videos, they make money on that kind of stuff. I think it goes back to like, what are your goals as a music artist? If your goals is to make money and become a business, it's the same. You got to build your brand and have your content and be monetizing your albums and your things in other ways. You got to be getting money somehow. And streams don't pay that well until you really get a viral video out there, right? And this day and age, I think it's safe to say, unless you get a viral video out there, that's the cheapest way to get a wave of money in for free. Otherwise, you're paying ads to miss on portions of demographics, portions of populations of people. It's guaranteed misses on a portion of it. So 100%, super interesting.
100%. And so that's funny. We started off with the most minimal of music talk, had a long talk of cannabis, and then got to bring it home with some music games. So I hope there's some artists.
And we had to wrap it all in, man. We had to bring it all home.
They're tapped in, because that is.
I won't do a money spread, but big shout out to Originals, man. Big shout out to Marathon OG and the Cure Company, man. Just wanted to show some love. 2 new clients of ours. We started doing writing for them, man. Wanted to show some love, man. They got the best of best. We're very proud to work with Cure Company, very proud to work with Originals, man. So just want to show some love. If you in LA and you ever need some fire gelato or OGs, bunch of different kinds of OGs, King Louis, original OGs, Amsterdam OG, Marathon OG, all the different kinds. You guys just got to tap in with the Cure Company or Originals. It's that easy.
Yep.
It's fire.
100%. And so we'll be back next Wednesday. I believe, I think our guest next week is David Abernathy from the ArcView Group. You weren't on the Zoom that I did, the interview I did with him for an article, but I'm excited for that conversation. Another, just like, when I spoke to Laura the other day, it was a conversation I didn't necessarily know what I was going into, but after the conversation, I was like, damn, I'm so glad that I got to connect with the individual like that, because it's just when people are operating on a similar wavelength and thought process, for me, that's just like,
whoever watched this episode and applies this shit to their brand, man, it was free game, and it was diamond grade level that had been applied to corporate budgets, millions and millions of dollars in corporate game. People have paid, major companies and corporations paid countless people like Laura to audit their strategies and their brands and identify personas and quite literally understand the healthcare customers and consumers that are already out there. You got to think, the reason why we had Laura on the show, not just the reason, but a big reason why I was so amped to have her on the show, is because her experience is the market, is with acquiring and keeping the loyalty of the market that cannabis is trying to get. It's all of the boomers. It's all of anybody that's older than a millennial is more likely to be with doctors and consuming pharmacy stuff and going in that usual traditional medicine route. And although they are cannabis friendly, they are looking for someone to bring them in and keep them and to educate them and to keep them going. They're looking for a friend, and for that friend to always be there. They want to add a couple others, right, for the tea party, right? And then want to start going to some of these events as they become more and more like what they already do, whether it's tea parties, little infused wine parties, food gatherings. We've already seen the infused dinners, the secret parties, and all these little high-end things that LA and San Francisco and Sacramento does. There's so many different little social elements that we're going to see through New York and Florida. It's very exciting. Concerts have always happened with cannabis. As it normalizes and as things start to really progress and continue to legalize across the country and the world, the rec and tourism conversation she mentioned is going to be huge as well. People will travel to a city, Google dispensaries they should go to, best weed they should buy, and they'll do that best pre-rolls. They'll do it by best dabs. They'll do it by best rosin. Someone who, like, you won't always be able to travel with your weed. At some point, they'll start getting better at it, right? You can't travel with alcohol. Can you in your bag? Like in your check-on?
Not in your check-on, no. It's three
Not in your
ounces.
check-on?
3 ounces. You got the little shot.
You can travel with a big bottle in your bag?
If you check it, I think you can. I think international, I think there's a milliliter limit. I'm not sure domestic.
It'll be interesting to see if weed is ever treated that way.
Yeah.
Right? So, huge.
So, well, with that note, RMR Podcast, episode 10. We're about to bounce up out of here. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.